Hello and welcome to Fast Horses Today for Friday. We are going to be covering the carryover, Pick 6 carryover over at Santa Anita. And that Pick 6 carryover does start in the fourth race. I think they've got a pool of about 60,000, just over 60,000 there. Probably should grow pretty well considering that you've got several days off between the races. You got a big Memorial Day card coming up there at Santa Anita with a 4-day race week. And let's get started over at the Great Race Place. So the Pick 6 does start in the fourth race of the day. The fourth race does have a approximate post time about 2:30 Pacific. So that's 4:30 here in the Central Time Zone, and that does start that Pick 6. Now, I'm not going to play the Pick 6 on Friday. I just couldn't figure out a ticket that I thought was manageable and affordable for me, so I'm going to skip over that Pick 6. I'm going to wish you all the best of luck there if you're playing it. What I am going to do is I'm going to play the late Pick 5. What I've historically liked to do is play that late Pick 5 on carryover days because I feel like the pool gets inflated because folks come in with more money to play that Pick 6. If that first leg doesn't go their way, the money does pour into that late Pick 5. So I do like that. So I'm going to play the late Pick 5, which does start in the fifth race of the day. The fifth race has an approximate post time about 3 o'clock Pacific, so that's 5 o'clock here in the Central Time Zone. We're going to start out with a 6-furlong turf sprint. That's on that flat grass course there. This is a starter allowance race, non-winners of 3 races. These are not my favorite class of races, these starter allowance races that they run quite a bit there in Southern California. I'm going to put 3 horses here in this race. I think one of these 3 can get this done. There is an also eligible that, certainly does factor in if he does draw in. I'm going to put the one horse who has Money Makes Money for Mark Glatt and Ricardo Gonzalez on the horse. Now, this horse came off a bit of a layoff. Well, I say a bit of a layoff, but it's probably about a 10-month layoff there. This horse came off a good layoff and really ran a nice race on the comeback campaign there in late April, just about a month ago. The horse ended up winning this starter allowance level non-winner of 2 and won it pretty nicely there with Ricardo Gonzalez. My only question is going to be the one hole. I don't know if it's the greatest spot for these 6-furlong grass sprints. Ricardo Gonzalez is going to have to figure out a route there. There does look to be some speed, so maybe, he can kind of hold back. If he runs a similar race to what he did last time, that should certainly be good enough because the horse ran a really nice race. So we'll see if, he could repeat at 5-2. Going to also put the 5 horse in. The 5 horse is News at 10 for Peter Urton. Ismael Jaramillo is on the horse. Now, this horse is coming off a long layoff. We haven't seen this horse since June of last year. That was a win in this starter allowance race at a mile on the grass. Now, Peter Urton trains, as I mentioned. Peter Urton's horses have done really well at Santa Anita in the last few weeks. Now, Urton has horses elsewhere, but it looks like the string that's over at Santa Anita has just really run very well at this Hollywood meet. So Peter Urton, I think, is going to be dangerous off the layoff there. Horse shows some nice works. Certainly fits with these. 9-2. Ismael Jaramillo on the horse. Always a good reason to put Ismael Jaramillo on your tickets. He certainly wins a lot. And then finally, I mentioned that horse is on the also eligible list. That's the 9 horse, Liam Smith. Now, here's what I wonder. I don't know why a 9 horse is on an also eligible list. I don't know why the horse doesn't just get entered there at Santa Anita. It's just a little bit strange when they talk about field sizes that you've got 9 horses possibly to run and you're putting them on also eligible. Probably something to speak with the racing secretary about there. But anyway, Liam Smith also eligible. This horse was a claim from the Doug O'Neill barn. Looked like Jeff Mullins probably claimed a nice one here. He'd come off a very nice maiden win where Mullins claimed him out of that win. Mullins brought him back shortly thereafter in a starter allowance race on the dirt, and the horse blew out a field with a big buyer. So this horse has had a couple big speed figures in his last 2 starts. 3-year-old here, Rosario's on the horse. Rosario's been doing a bang-up job there in Southern California since he's come back. Here's the question about Liam Smith. He's done his good running on the dirt. He's moving over the turf now. Certainly shows, high rate of speed. Also, I'm kind of wondering, Liam Smith was entered for a $30,000 claiming race, a few weeks ago and got scratched out of there. It was a vet scratch. So they're bringing him in here. They're protecting him with no claim tag here. So I'm not exactly sure what the story is with this horse. But I'm going to put him in. If he does draw in, we're going to have the 1, 5, and 9, presuming that Liam Smith draws into the race there in the 5th race to start off that late pick 5. All right, let's move over to the 6th race of the day. 6 races are fillies and mares, $12,500 claimers. They're going 5.5 on the dirt, so a quick dirt sprint here for 3-year-olds and older. Got some 3 horses here. I think one of these 3 will get it done for us. Going to put the 2 horse was Ms. Club Cali. Gary Studi claimed this horse off of Steve Knapp, so first time off the claim for Gary Studi. Studi does well with the first time off the claims. He puts Tiago Pereira on the horse. Now I know that Studi and Pereira have teamed up for some nice wins. You know, this horse certainly fits here in this level. They claimed her for 10. They're putting her for 12.5. I don't see that as a whole big jump. You know, they're not running a lot of different levels in Southern California at these claiming races anymore. So I certainly think this horse does fit. Looks like the horse will be sitting off the pace a bit. You know, 5.5 furlongs, you can't set off too much, but there does seem to be some high speed here. So we'll see if these horses are good enough, these speed horses, to stay. I'm not too sure they are. Otherwise, they wouldn't be running at this level. Ms. Club Cali can come running late. Going to put the 5 horse. 5 horse being outrageous. Marcia Stortzbarn and Cristobal Herrera. Now, these 2 team up quite a bit. They teamed up for a couple wins in the last 2 starts for outrageous. Now, Marcia Storch doesn't get a whole lot of chances here. She's got 3 wins on the year. 2 of these 3 wins have come from outrageous. Looks like she's managed this horse nicely. As I mentioned, you know, she's run some nice races in her last 2. You know, beating a field of 10,000 claimers and then moving into a starter allowance race where she won pretty easily there, both with Herrera aboard. You know, in watching the film, that horse ran really nicely there. You know, now we haven't seen this horse since March, so maybe about, 6 weeks off or so. You know, maybe this horse just needed a rest after a nice campaign in the winter. Certainly like Santa Anita with 2 wins out of 3 starts there, including a third place finish. 7-2. Cristobal Herrera doesn't get a whole lot of chances on live horses. Neither does Marcia Storch. We'll see. They'll team up, maybe run a nice race here at 7-2, that being the 5 horse, outrageous. And I am going to put the 7 horse, who is Rowtown, for Sergio Morfin. And Ricardo Ramirez takes the call here. Now, Ramirez has been riding this horse. This horse drops into this level. You know, she's had some back class in her day. Now, I didn't see where she's earned over $250,000 in her life. And I didn't look that far back to see when she earned that. It's been a couple years ago. You know, this is not a very strong field. And this horse does show some high speed. Maybe Ramirez takes the lead with this horse and goes. You know, we certainly, we do see that happen. As I mentioned, there is a lot of speed here, but who knows if horses don't go, maybe Rowtown would, reach into her back class and just blitz this field. She's 4-1. We'll put her in this race here. So we've got the 2, 5, and 7 in the 6th race. All right, let's go to the 7th race of the day. Now, the 7th race is a $50,000 optional claim, first level allowance race. They're going 1.25 miles on the grass, so they start halfway down the hill and they come around once. That's their 1.25 miles there at Santa Anita. Interesting field here of horses. We've got horses that have been running at this level. We've got some horses that are moving up. I guess the question will be, who might like that 1.25 miles distance. I got 2 horses I'm going to put in here in this race. First, I'm going to put the 3 horse, who was None Above the Law. Peter Miller trains. Peter Miller puts Rosario up on this horse. Now, I think Rosario is going to be a nice addition to this horse. I've watched the film on this horse, and what she's done in her last 3 races at Santa Anita. 2 of those races at this same level. Then she ran in an open $40,000 claiming race, which I feel like it's not much different than this level here in this field of horses. Here's the question about None Above the Law. I think she's run some nice races in her last 3, nice speed figures. We're going to see if she likes this 1.25 miles. I'm going to think that she does based on her races that she's shown. She ran some mile races there at Santa Anita on the grass, and I just felt like maybe she wanted to run longer. I don't know that the shorter races are for her. So 5-1, I think Rosario can make a difference here. I don't know. We'll see if maybe Rosario puts this horse, on or near the lead. And, just kind of runs a steady race, which seems to be kind of her running style. That could suit her well in a race like 1.25 miles. So we'll put the 3 horse, None Above the Law. Then I'm going to put the 6 horse. 6 horse being Mythical Real for Phil D'Amato. Phil D'Amato puts Antonio Fresu up on the horse. This horse is 3-1. Now, this horse is a second off a layoff. I thought she ran a pretty nice race at 1.125 at the same level. A couple of these horses come out of that race. I thought it was a very nice race. Looked to me like, it was something that she needed the race there. And, maybe that sets her up here for a 1.25 race. Question's going to be, is she going to like the distance? I mean, she's run well at 1.125. She's had one shot at 1.25 that race was just kind of even, if at best. She got beaten by a couple of them in that race. That was back in late October. I'm going to guess something probably went amiss for her because we hadn't seen her since that race, when she had that one comeback race in April. So I think that, Phil D'Amato horses have been doing pretty well lately at Santa Anita for this Hollywood meet. He's come out, really kind of guns blazing there at this Hollywood Park meet. So Phil D'Amato horse is certainly going to be dangerous. I think Mythical Real should run a really nice race, and that being off that, that first off the layoff back in April. If you want to watch the film on that, if you see what I saw with her running a pretty nice race. So I think the 3 and the 6, one of those would get it done in the 7th race and advance our ticket. All right, let's move over to the 8th race of the day. 8th race is another claiming race here. This is a mile on the dirt. So they're going 2 turns here. These are 3-year-olds and up. The 3-year-olds, they could have won as many races as they could. If you're older, it's non-winner of 2. So that's how they're matching up the younger and older horses here. I'm going to put 2 horses in this race. I'm going to put the 2 horse, who is Molly Jensen, for Cynthia Kelly. Cynthia Kelly puts Tyler Bays on the horse here. Now, this horse, has been running, in it around this level here. I think been running some decent races. She's a long shot here on Friday at 15-1. Here's why I'm going to give her a shot. The breeding for this horse really screams to me distance. And this horse has been sprinting. She's been showing some speed. She's been sprinting, just running some even races. I think the stretch out to 2 turns really could do this girl a lot of good. She's by Ghost Zapper out of an Uncle Mo mare. So I think this horse wants to run a distance. Maybe just hasn't had the chance to run a distance. And it's not like you could really fault the trainer. Mark Glatt was the trainer before Cynthia Kelly claimed the horse. They may not have had any route races to run, so Glatt may not have had a choice, but looks like Cynthia Kelly's spotting this horse nicely. I'm going to put her in 15-1 Molly Jensen. Maybe she takes the lead and keeps going, as we see that does happen in these lower level races. In addition to the 2-horse Molly Jensen, I'm going to put the 8-horse, who is Bears Board, for Doug O'Neill. Doug O'Neill and Ismael Jaramillo pair up here. We've seen a lot of good work these guys did ever since Jaramillo came over to California. Now, Jaramillo's ridden this horse in her last, 5 times that she's run. And, couple nice races, couple even races. I think Bears Board is dropping in to a level where, this is a $10,000 claiming race. It's, kind of your bottom rung or right around there in Southern California. Bears Board shows some races that probably makes her very competitive with this. I give a nod to Jaramillo and how he's been riding. This horse does show forward position. We'll see. I don't know if Jaramillo will try to go to the lead or maybe just stalk and, pounce on the leaders coming, into the stretch. I can see that happening. 2-1, certainly no secret there. So we're going to put the 2 and the 8 there in the 8th race. All right, let's go to the 9th race of the day. This is the last race of the day. This is where the Pick 6 will get paid off. This is or possibly paid off if there's not a carryover. Or, the Pick 5 is certainly going to get paid off here. And I think the Sunset 6, which I think there's a carryover there too. So a lot of eyes will be on this 9th race of the day over at the Great Race Place. There's going to be a maiden special weight here for fillies and mares. These are state-bred, California-bred horses here, special weights. They're going 6 furlongs on the grass, so that's that flat grass course. I'm going to put 4 horses in here. The goal is we got a live ticket, maybe a couple prices. We've got 4 horses in coverage. Will be a nice spot to be in. I'm going to put the 1 horse who has taken a joyride. Taking a joyride for Craig Lewis. This horse has had 2 starts. 5-1 Kazushi Kimura takes over from Juan Hernandez. Hernandez on a different horse today. I think she's run some nice races. She ran a very nice first out sprint, running second to Red-Headed Reba, who was a nice winner that day. She followed that up with a really nice turf effort at 2 turns at a mile. Ended up coming second to Cool Mariah. Thought she ran a nice second. I mean, it's always a challenge when you've got a horse coming into a race from 1 sprint going 2 turns. She looked like she passed that test. She's shortening back up to 6 furlongs. We'll see if Kimura can get a good trip here. This horse should be live at 5-1. We're going to put the 3 horse who is Sacred Sound. Sacred Sound for Peter Miller and Joel Rosario. Very tough to take Joel Rosario off your tickets. This horse is coming off a long layoff. Peter Miller, last had this horse out there in Del Mar in the summer meet there in late August. So this horse is coming off a, as I mentioned, pretty long layoff. Has a steady work tab. And, I never mind a horse going into a turf sprint off a layoff. I feel like trainers can get them ready there. Certainly some good works. This horse might be ready. She's running this maiden special weight level in the Calbred ranks. Has run some even races. Could be live here at 5-1. Going to put the 6 horse. The 6 horses Zip Me Up for Carla Gaines, Hector Barrios. Now this horse comes from a nice family. The mother, Unzip Me, she was a really nice Calbred runner in the Southern California circuit, running on short turf races, turf sprints. And, she's had some nice offspring as well. She's had some winners, that she's dropped. And this horse is by Ohm. And, we've seen some nice Ohm offspring as well. So this horse is very nicely bred, Zip Me Up. She had one start. That was last year at Del Mar in the summer meet. That was in early August. I thought she ran a really nice race. Turf sprint. That's a 5 furlong turf sprint they run there. She'd come off the outside post there, 8 of 8, which that's not always the easiest thing to do there at Del Mar in those turf sprints. Didn't have the best of starts, but I thought she ran a really nice race. Showed a lot of promise. Something obviously we want to miss after that because we haven't seen her since, but shows some nice works, and Carla Gaines has done some nice work with comebackers. I mean, Carla Gaines usually takes a race or two to get them ready, but she must be changing some things up. She's done a lot better with horses on the off a layoff, and certainly, as I mentioned, I don't mind horses off a layoff and turf sprints. Zip Me Up could be very dangerous here at 9-2, and then finally, I'm going to put the 8 horse. 8 horse, if She's No Quant, she'll probably be your favorite. She's 9-5 in the program. She's No Quant, couple changes here. Blinkers come off this horse, and also there's switch jocks. Kazushi Kimura's off. Juan Hernandez is on. This horse has run 2 sprints, and her first start, she had a terrible start that day. She came running, so of course, the next time out, people were going to hear about that bad start, and she got overbet. She was, at 3-5 or so that day. And, she was a lot closer to the lead, and she got beat. So She's No Quant certainly shows some ability, having run nicely in 2 starts. We'll put her in here. Certainly don't want this favorite beating us in the late pick 5 if we have a nice live ticket. So I'm going to put her in here at 9-5. That's the 8, She's No Quant. So we've got the 1, 3, 6, and 8 to cap off that pick 5. All right, now let's recap the day and recap the bets. Okay, so for Friday's card, which includes the pick 6 carryover at Santa Anita, we're not going to play the pick 6. We're going to play the pick 5, that late pick 5, which does start out in the 5th race. So we're going to start out that late pick 5 with the 1-5-9, with the 2-5-7, with the 3-6, with the 2-8, with the 1, 3, 6, and 8. Now that pick 5 ticket, if it stands and there are no scratches, that pick 5 will be a $72 ticket. We'll see if that also elbow draws in that first leg. If it does, will this be a $72 ticket. As always, you can add or subtract to the ticket, play it how it fits you. If you want to play it as is, I wish you the best of luck. I'm playing it like that. If you're going to play the pick 5, let me play the pick 3s, pick 4s within it. I wish you the best of luck. Let's wish the folks over at Santa Anita a very safe day of racing to open up their Memorial Day weekend. Let's wish ourselves some great luck and some great trips. As we know, those trips can certainly mean the difference between winning or losing in a race. So as always, I thank you so much for watching Fast Horses today and listening to the picks. Thank you to everybody who's hit the subscribe button from the beginning as well as the people who have done it just recently. I appreciate everybody. If you haven't done so, hit that subscribe button. Doesn't cost you anything. You can always like, dislike, make comments. Let's create a discussion. See you back for more coverage over the weekend. Thank you.